yes, there's a lot of talk about being very like having advertising and creative that resonates with people, that is but more relevant to the current generation of what we call digital natives. And in my point of view, digital native and digital immigrant is a mindset issue more
Sure.
than it is a demographic issue. But I would say the digital natives are more and more putting their I would say they're being but more vocal about transparency and being honest and things of that nature. So for let's say a digital immigrant, statistically
Mhm.
speaking, a
Mhm.
digital immigrant that doesn't necessarily care if the food service delivery company, so like the Food Panda we have in Pakistan, they don't care if Food Panda is not paying their employees on time. They don't care about that because they're like, as long as I get my food, I don't care about anything else. But the digital natives are the ones making their voice heard on social media and other platforms and saying that if you don't pay your people on time or treat them well and all that, I will not use your service. There's a big swell of that in the country. And obviously, if you tie it back, you can see that most of the social science and the liberal arts degree program graduates or students are the ones who think this way. People
Correct.
like myself from a business background and all, we're just like, that's just the way things are. Let's just, keep the status quo. But there is this sort of change happening in that direction. People are asking for their rights, and as a result, they're asking for the rights of others.
Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a vodcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. If you are new to our channel, please consider subscribing to it and hit the bell icon so that you never miss an update. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm privileged to welcome a very, very senior investigative journalist from Pakistan, Khan Javed. Babar, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for inviting.
Thank you. Babar is the founder of BrandTium. He's a chief investigative journalist from Pakistan covering advertising and media. And earlier, he has spent a decade leading public affairs strategies for technology companies. So, Babar, let's talk a little bit about BrandTium. As the chief investigative journalist in Pakistan covering advertising and media in Southeast Asia, tell me about the work you do. And if possible, give me some anecdotes or examples.
Sure. So, like you mentioned before, journalism, I was in public affairs. And so since 2017 to date, I've been an investigative journalist for the advertising and the media space.
Okay.
Primarily, I started with the APAC region in Singapore. Then I went to cover the Middle Eastern region from Dubai. And then I've been dedicatedly covering Pakistan for the past year. This end of May will become the 1 year mark for dedicatedly Pakistan coverage.
Okay.
And so with the publication that I'm with right now, they're called Profit. They're an affiliate of the Wall Street Journal.
Mhm.
With them, I cover the news, the analysis, and other aspects of the advertising, the media industry. And on my own Substack, which is babar.substack.com, which is the BrandTium page that you alluded to, that's where the uncensored stories or the more detailed stories go there that are not influenced by anyone's censorship attempts. And that's also where I can put up my own like data journalism experiments, things that I'm thinking about. People get a very, very nice preview in terms of the kind of work that I'm looking at, the kind of data that I'm analyzing that may turn into a story itself.
Mhm.
So it's like my open-ended thoughts over there. And then I have a subscriber base on that side as well.
Yeah.
But within the Profit landscape, what I cover primarily with the Pakistan landscape is that every single broadcaster in Pakistan, whether a TV channel, they have a print publication, radio station, whatever, when they inevitably have a business beat, right? They have a team of business and economy reporters, and you will see. Anyone can verify this. Every single one of those publications covers every single industry except the advertising industry.
Mhm.
So, like, there's some publications. There's a broadcasters in Pakistan that that the journalism space, they point at them. They say, "Oh, look at those people. They're so pro-government. They'll never say anything anti-government. They're sellouts." And then someone will point at another group and be like, "Look at those people. They never say anything negative about so and so real estate developer. They're sellouts." But then when I sit with all these people and they're pointing fingers at each other and they're saying, "Oh, you're a sellout. You're a sellout." I'm the only one going like, "How many of you cover the advertising industry?"
Okay.
And then they're all like silent. They're like, none of us. So that's the hardest thing to go after because you'll have to bite the hand that feeds you
Correct.
in one way. Our
Correct.
publication, for example, our publication is funded and supported by subscribers. So
Mhm.
individual and enterprise level subscribers, they
Correct.
pay an annual fee. And so in that way, we're able to serve the reader as opposed to the other publications, they serve the advertisers.
Hmm.
And so they support those narratives and all that. And so what I've been doing in the past year is, speaking with people in the media agency, creative agency, digital agency space to figure out what they're doing, what their challenges are, what their solutions have been to various industry or business problems that have to be solved,
Mhm.
and covering a lot of the media ad fraud challenges that are nation. I mean, it's a global issue, but in Pakistan as well, we have a lot of lack. We have a massive amount of lack of transparency.
Correct.
So, and as a result of that lack of transparency, you can get away with a lot of things. There's a lot of fraud. There's a lot of uh, false ratings. There's a lot of dumbed down ratings. There's emphasis on certain platforms that are, they're great and everything, but there's
Mhm.
also a de-emphasis on some platforms that are not necessarily doing anything wrong. It's just a matter of not having the right what we call khancha, what we call behind the scenes deals,
Correct. Correct.
because they don't have those in place. They don't get the kind of coverage, or they don't get the kind of attention that they fully deserve. And
Mm.
so, like, I come up with this series of this. I have this series of articles that I've been doing for almost a year now, of
Mhm.
like, why do advertisers in Pakistan ignore? Then I've done one on TikTok, Snapchat, Bigo. I've done one on LinkedIn as well.
Mhm.
Like, LinkedIn has 5 million plus audience from Pakistan, and these are like employed people, so they've got money, they've got disposable income, but advertisers aren't paying attention to them. Why?
Mm.
It's because LinkedIn doesn't have a representative in Pakistan that will go to the media agencies and say, if you spend money with us, you get 40%, we'll keep 60%.
Mm.
Because that conversation's not happened,
Mm.
LinkedIn and Snapchat and TikTok don't show up in media plans.
Mm.
So it's sort of exposing that kind of truth of the industry, that while we like to talk about the fact that media and advertising is done very scientifically in Pakistan, the reality is that there's a lot of behind the scenes deals that determine whether you will appear in a media mix or not. And so putting that out there, and also a lot of my work places a lot of blame, if like whenever I identify a problem in the industry, like a deep rooted problem in the industry, I always, in my own, like, I author it in this way, that the author of this article solely puts the blame on the advertiser,
Mhm.
the client organizations to blame for why there's lack of media transparency in the industry, why ad fraud is prevalent, why targeting is terrible, why creative is terrible, because those are the decision makers, right?
Mm.
If you're the final person signing off on something or pushing for something to exist or not exist, then it's entirely up to you. And so I call these people out quite often, and people use me as a basis, that they say, oh, so and so said it, so therefore it must be true. So, like, we were the first publication in the country to say that third party data is going to die, and first party data is something you should focus all your attention on. Not all, but a significant amount of your attention should go to owning your .com. So, like, the Alibaba in Pakistan is called Daraz, and a lot of the attention has been placed over there. But any of the data that you collect on your, let's say you have a page on Daraz, it'll be daraz.com, sorry, daraz.pk/Ashutosh.
Mhm.
But any of the data that you collect on that, the CRM that you collect, you do not have any ownership over that. It
Mm.
goes to Daraz, even though you've put on all the effort to acquire that information. It's the same thing with Facebook. It's the same thing with Instagram and all that. As long as you place your trust on these these earned media and paid media platforms, you don't own any of that. They can kill your page any day. So if you have a business that's whole proposition is around a Facebook page or a Twitter account, and tomorrow they kill it for any reason, what are you going to do? You're like left standing. You put all your eggs in the wrong basket. So I
Absolutely.
tell people to make their own .coms. And
Mhm.
so people are able, media agencies have reached out to me many times to say thank you, to say that because of your article that
Mhm.
basically was very scathing in a
Mhm.
particular way, we've been able to justify an expense of the client, because the client doesn't want to be, belittled by you in a specific way.
Very well
And
said.
so it's like being the voice of the advertising industry. It's like being the sole voice of the advertising industry. It's like being a trade press, a trade body, that people have been able to point to me and say that I've been able to use I've been able to use the fact that I know you, or the fact that I can email you, in
Mhm.
order to get my salary on time, to get sexual harassment to stop, to get various, media transparency issues to go away. Just because I've been able to tell people that if you don't do this, like, it's not like the person wanted a raise and then they come to me. It's like basic things. You don't want to be harassed at work. You don't want to get your salary, the June salary, aapki August mein aa rahi hai, right?
Mhm.
Things like that. These are basic rights of the employee. So they've been able to say, I'm going to go to that reporter who cannot be bought, who cannot be influenced, who cannot be swayed in any way. I'm going to go to him and tell them that you're, horrible organization. So while our investigative bodies, are on the police side, on the media, on the transparency side, our SECP, for example, our accountability bureaus, they are, let's say, understaffed and overworked. So the media agency, the advertising ecosystem, can reach out and say, this is the person who represent their interests, and who will sort of hold people to account.
Oh, how wonderful. I mean, we had our own share of a TRP scandal 7, 8
Yeah,
months
yeah,
ago, and I'm sure you would have read about that.
yeah,
But
yeah. Background.
Babar, you've been in advertising as a journalist. Now you are become like a media watchdog, if you'll probably use that word. But my question to you is that how are customer expectations? When I say customer, I mean the consumer. How are
Right.
consumer expectations changing? from advertising and from someone who's going to be policing that what is being communicated in the advertisement is true?
Unfortunately, I mean, it's the 1% or three. We you and I would you would go to the 1%. I'd be probably 3%. But
Mhm.
the when the 1-3%, the top, I would say first 9%, we care about these things. But the 91% majority, the vocal minor, I
Mm.
mean, there was income and possibly not, but the majority don't really care about these things.
Okay.
The majority in Pakistan just want things either free, idly, or as cheap as humanly possible. So they
True.
could care less if they're being lied to, and they don't really like. You can see all the vaccine denial that's happening in Pakistan. The fact that people think that Bill Gates wants to put a chip inside me. I'm like, hey, you've bought a 1,000 rupee phone that's tracking you anyway. You don't need Bill Gates to put a chip
Absolutely
inside you.
right. Hmm.
So is that there's a majority out there that doesn't really care about these things because of the fact that their life, because of the lack of privilege that they've been
Mhm.
born into, every day is just a matter of survival for them. So for
Mhm.
the majority, they don't care about anything external. They're just trying to get by from a day-to-day perspective, make the money they need, save if they can. I mean, and most of the times they can, and just put food on the table. That's all they care about. So if you go to them and you tell them that, are you upset that so and so ad lied to you that it said that हर एक पैकेट में 4 biscuit होंगे लेकिन
Mhm.
there's only 3, do you care about that? They're like, you know what, at least I got the packet, right? So they don't really care. But then when you talk about the urban side of things, the people like myself and my contemporaries, yes, there's a lot of talk about being very like having advertising and creative that resonates with people, that is but more relevant to the current generation of what we call digital natives.
Mhm.
And in my point of view, digital native and digital immigrant is a mindset issue more
Sure.
than it is a demographic issue. But I would say the digital natives are more and more putting their I would say they're being but more vocal about transparency and being honest and things of that nature. So for let's say a digital immigrant, statistically
Mhm.
speaking, a
Mhm.
digital immigrant that doesn't necessarily care if the food service delivery company, so like the Food Panda we have in Pakistan, they don't care if Food Panda is not paying their employees on time. They don't care about that because they're like, as long as I get my food, I don't care about anything else. But the
Mhm.
digital natives are the ones making their voice heard on social media and other platforms and saying that if you don't pay your people on time or treat them well and all that, I will not use your service.
That's
There's a big swell of that in the country. And obviously, if you tie it back, you can see that most of the social science and the liberal arts degree program graduates or students are the ones who think this way. People
correct.
like myself from a business background and all, we're just like, that's just the way things are. Let's just, keep the status quo. But
Okay.
there is this sort of change happening in that direction. People are asking for their rights, and as a result, they're asking for the rights of others. And they understand the trickle down economics
Mm.
of when your rights are being denied to you. When your rights are denied on a blue collar level, that anger, that festered anger, can grow into something much much worse that could become an extremist activity that comes down the line.
Sure.
Right? People have a lot of rage against various factions within the government, and instead of going out and saying, like it's a matter of framing and marketing and positioning,
Mhm.
right? If I have anger towards the government, instead of saying that I'm angry at you because you denied me something, I'm going to come up with some religious angle to it so that it's justifiable. And so, to avoid all that, people understand that you need to make sure that people are happy in the country, at least provided and taken care of.
Okay.
And so that there's that faction of there's a very loud, wealthy faction of the citizenship pool that is under the age of 35, I would say, that is going around on social media and saying that because this person, because there's video evidence that proves that this organization mistreats its employees, we're not going to buy from them. And so those companies have to issue statements and do transparency and saying, please come into our kitchen and we'll do open, transparent kitchen tours and whatever the other type of tours are, the factories and all that, to sort of reignite that trust in the public.
Yeah,
But that's
interesting.
happening really shortly.
Interesting. So, what you're telling me is that the average millennial or the average Gen Z individual in Pakistan is no different from anyone else in the world. I mean, the same challenges are being addressed by the millennials and the Gen Zs all over the world, and that's very, very heartening. But coming
Mhm.
back to the work you are doing, when I was reading about you and I was looking at your blog, I wondered, whether someone who's like you, who I don't know if it's the right word to call you a whistleblower, but what are some of your challenges as you are putting out everything honestly, um, in writing?
Well, the first challenge is that there's a status quo, right? Before I came on the scene, there's a status quo in terms of this is how business is going to be conducted in Pakistan. We're going to have no transparency. The ratings are manipulated. Just the scandal
Mm.
with the BCRA,
Yeah.
more or less the same situation over here. I mean, the funny thing is, your scandal got resolved. Ours is still going on. So
Okay.
what got resolved in your country in the span of a year is taking 4 or 5 years in Pakistan, just because of stay order in the courts and all these other things, right? And so there's a status quo in terms of here's one rating which provider that's going to measure TV audiences consumption, and the TV channels have, and here's the funny part, that ratings provider should be paid by the advertiser. So like a Unilever, for example, should be paying them and saying, I'm paying you, I'm your customer, I'm paying you. Tell me which channels are the most watched and the least watched, and what segments and all that in terms of male, female, and all that. But what ends up happening is the advertiser, like I bring it back over and over again, the advertiser organizations in Pakistan are so cheap and so short-sighted that they're like, I don't care how you make money, ratings provider, I'm not going to pay you. So what ends up happening is the TV channel pays the ratings provider, and the TV channel is saying that I'm paying you the money, so I need you to write in your report that I'm number one. Obviously, that's going to happen, right? And the media agencies are in on it, and everyone else is in on it because short-term thinking. People are thinking about people are being evaluated on 3-month cycles, so they don't have a vested interest in the organization. They don't care about their audience targeting and being very specific with your marketing signs. And so then this guy comes along, who's me basically. I came along from Dubai, and I joined this organization and just started saying that actually there's a case against this ratings provider that no one's really talking about, because again it's against the status quo, or this publication that claims to have a primary male audience above the age of 40. If you use this analytics tool that can be used by any other person, it actually shows that their audience is not from Pakistan, but under the age of 25, coming from Indonesia. So they're clearly employing ad fraud. Tools that allow them to propagate ad fraud that make it seem like their traffic is high, but actually the contextual aspect of their traffic is very, very pathetic in terms of the quality of the traffic. So quantity over quality. And I always emphasize quality over quantity with my work. And then obviously talking about, like I wrote this listicle a while back that went over 15 ways white collar criminals are stealing from advertisers. And so people were really upset about that, because they're like, you're exposing all these things that we hope the advertiser would never find out. And so the challenges are just generally an overall sense of lack of professionalism. If you don't understand how public relations works, and if you don't understand how public affairs and media relations works, there's a media agency reaching out to me saying that, can you delete that article because our client isn't happy with it? And so what's happening is, even if that article, let's say, gets deleted, an article about a technology company defrauding the Balochistan government of $2 million, and a media agency is reaching out and saying that organization that defrauded them, they're a client of ours, delete that article. Let's say that article gets deleted. Here's what ends up happening actually at the end of the day. I go to the private Facebook group or the private LinkedIn group filled with business reporters from Pakistan, and I tell them, this is what's happened with me. And I'm just informing you to be careful of that media agency and that organization, because they issue death threats and all that. What ends up happening is the 999 people reading that post, they say to themselves, you know what? When there's a slow news day, we're going to write about that. And let's see that media agency try to take down all of our articles. You were one publication, but we're 999. What are they going to do about it? And we're much more powerful as a collective group. We're much more powerful. So a lot of the companies in Pakistan, when they're saying that take down this article or delete this article or we'll censor you or please don't write that article in the first place, they're creating a very negative relationship with the press, and they're creating an animosity relationship with the press. So as a tiny example, and I've spoken about this openly before, many times before, I did 2 articles on Unilever Pakistan that were about investments that they've made that I, even in my article, wrote these are smart investments. But Unilever Pakistan's teams and their media agency and other people reached out and they said that, can you not write this article because our client is not ready to have this information public? Right. And I told them the article frames it positively in your favor. I'm not writing that this is a terrible investment. I'm no one to say whether the investment is good or bad. That being said, objectively speaking, I think it's a good investment because you've created a first-party app or you've created a first-party site for grocery delivery or whatever that investment is. Right. And so there's a lot of pushback in terms of don't write the article at all because we're Unilever and we're huge and we can control the entire industry. They cling it, will get you that blacklisted from the entire industry. And my mind was like boggled. I was like, the article is not negative. The article is saying, hey, Unilever is invested in this program that no other FMCG is investing in, and they're clearly going to have a competitive advantage by the year 2023. The CEO, and the funny thing is, the CEO of Unilever Pakistan, he became the CEO in February 2020, just before the pandemic. So horrible timing. But that being said, I even wrote in the article that this guy became CEO in February 2020. The pandemic hit, and all the investments he had planned for that year, he he kept them on board. He didn't say, "Oh, pandemic ho gaya, so let's cut costs. Let's not do anything experimental." He kept it all, and I've written the article. And yet people had an issue with that. And why is that? Because people for many years have, like I've mentioned, that there's no other broadcaster and publication writing about the advertising industry. So for many years, these companies and these media agencies have unko like aadat par gayi, right? They've become used to the idea that they can dictate what journalists can and can't write. So when someone turns around and says, "No, I'm not going to listen to you," it breaks their brain. They're like, "Ab kya kare?" Because their whole life has been that,
Yeah.
"Don't write that," and the person's like, "Yes, boss, I won't write that." And then they don't have a script for what happens next, or if the person says no. So they just break them, and they're like, what do we do?" So I've experienced that quite a bit. Then there's just general जो generally एक चीज होती है कि lack of professionalism. अगर आप if you fix the lack of personal time and time mismanagement in Pakistan, and the fact that people don't value the time of others. So just आपने कहा, "Let's talk at 9 a.m." It came on 9 a.m. instead of making you wait 30 minutes. That lack of valuing my time and your time is a huge problem across the entire nation. Hopefully, I mean, I'm not, I'm guessing it in India as well. But if you fix this one thing, trust me, the trickle down effect will be immense in the entire country.
That I
So I'm reaching out to someone on the 1st of April saying, "Hey, can you send me a statement in a week?" And wo jawab aa raha hai May. And I'm like, "Dude, the article was for April. Why are you responding to me in May?" And will be like a 100-word statement. It wasn't really hard. So there's a lot of again, lack of understanding of what advertising journalism is what the lack of understanding of investigative journalism, because you're so used to decades of dictating what the press can and can't write. And then obviously the final point is various examples, various symptoms that show you a lack of overall professionalism in the entire industry, not least of which is time management. In terms of not understanding a deadline diya hua hai aapko. You give me a response by 5th April and the response coming at 30th of April. You're like, the article's already been published. I don't know why you're sending it to me late. So is tarah ki cheezein are the basic challenges. But I mean, death threats and all that come every now and then.
Yeah.
But the thing is that because of my work at BrandTium with my Substack, and the kind of analyses and I do a lot of strategic audits with that. So I look at a situation and I create a strategic audit report that's only for my subscribers. 2 of my subscribers from the effort that I have on Substack are, I would say, very wealthy and very powerful people in Pakistan, and so I'm protected by them. So if anytime there's a death threat or anything of this sort that comes my way, I can easily get in touch with them and say, "This is the number that's calling me, that's saying that they're going to come to my house and shoot me in the head. So can you deal with it?" And they deal with it. So I have subscriber backing in terms of money coming in, but also in security details.
Incredible.
So I feel secure in that bit.
Incredible. No, you please take care. I mean, I can't imagine someone as a journalist or someone, or maybe I haven't come across it in India also, where someone just said there's a death threat. So please take very, very good care. So, Babar, I'm going to now move to the last segment. I have time for 2 more questions for you. My first question is that, for someone who's done so much, or jo aap itna kare ja rahe hain, and all kinds of wonderful things you're doing, from where you stand today, what does success mean to Babar?
Like you use the word watchdog. I actually do see it that way, because when I was even in the industry, when I was working in advertising agencies or I was working in public affairs roles within organizations, I often felt that we didn't have a watchdog. We didn't have someone who had our back. Like, कहते हैं कि your HR manager has your back, but not really. And your boss really doesn't have your back, right?
True.
At the end of the day, we didn't have someone that we could go to and say that we feel that we are not being heard, we're not being treated well, we're not doing things intelligently enough. Come to us, and we need an industry body, right? If you look at Singapore or any other market, you have an industry body that puts the industry together, that says, "Hey, advertising agencies, hey, client organizations, this is how you do things right now, but this will not stand for the next decade or so. Here's a better way of doing things." We don't have those in Pakistan. So I was able to sort of become that in one particular way. And for me, success is to see the media landscape in Pakistan become more transparent, become less prevalent with ad fraud. To see people being treated well, to see minorities being treated well. One of the things that I do with my publication, and anyone can verify this, is that just you said that there's at any given point in time, there's 15, 16 people being talked about in the press, but there's thousands of people. So what I try to do in my own way, and this is like an extra effort on my part, and I don't expect anything in return for it. But what I do is I understand that every single business reporter in Pakistan, when they're reporting on any particular issue, they will predominantly quote men and ask men, "What is your perspective on this? What is your analysis on this?" and they ignore women in the industry, whether or not the industry is 50-50. For example, most of public relations firms in Pakistan are either led by or manned by, manned is the wrong word, but the employees majority are women, but they're not being talked about whenever public relations comes up, because men, it's a man's world, it's a boy's world, and all that. But if you pick up any of my articles, I would say if you pick up 10 of my articles, 9 articles, you will find that if 10 people are quoted, 6 are women. And I do that. I go out of my way to do that. So if I find out, if I want to quote from someone who's a mom to 2 kids and who's, let's say, new mom to 2 kids, and I get in touch with her on Monday, I tell her, you have till Friday to give me a statement. But if I email a guy for the exact same thing, I give him till Wednesday, because I know that that person, once they come back from work, they're still working. They're still being a mom. But the man, statistically speaking, when he comes back from work, he shuts off his brain and does his own thing. And again, statistically speaking, I'm sure the world is changing, but statistically speaking, he baat kar raha hu. And so in that way, what I also want to see happen is that more women are seen at the forefront. People associate the advertising, the media industry with female professionals in Pakistan who are very capable, who have something very interesting to say. I have a very unique perspective on how certain problems can be solved. And a foreign conference is happening, and they want speakers. I mean, jab COVID gets subsides and we can have physical events, and they want speakers from Pakistan. They have at the top of their mind recall of a female executive in the industry, hopefully thanks to an article that I've written, or hopefully thanks to the confidence she's gotten from having been published in my. Because kya hota hai ki when I reached out to these women, right, I would say that because of the way they've been raised, or because the way the environment is around them, they've constantly been told one way or the other that their opinion is not valued at all, or their unique opinion is not valued at all. So when I reached out to them as an example and I say, okay, can you comment on this story about Amazon? They're like, oh, I don't know what to say. But when I speak to them informally and I say, okay, let's talk off the record, and they speak to them informally, they say brilliant things. And I'm like, okay, fine, why don't you send me the statement? I will craft it a little bit and I'll send it back to you for confirmation. So is tarah se I'm also their publicist in a way. You could think of that way. Again, this is the extra effort that needs to be done, because koi inko haath nahi de raha hai. So someone has to give them that kind of support in that market. And right now there's no one doing it. So I do that. I do it my little bit. I'm one guy. Like, I'm not doing much, but this is the best I can do for now, right? And so what I'm hoping for, what I've seen since that effort has been that these women have been quoted. They've been, praised in their families. Wow, you appeared in that publication, aapki picture aaye and everything. So people are very proud of them. Then they get speaking gigs at the universities and schools where they're like, so and so was quoted. Then wahan se unko confidence hota hai ki they write their own articles in various publications, and then they become sort of within the professional scope celebrity. So this is something also I strive for. I go out of my way to quote Hindus or Christians and other types of minorities in the country who are not being given the coverage that they deserve. So again, breaking a lot of the things in the status quo where people are like, no, Sunni Muslim male will be quoted, that's it. And I'm like, no, I'll quote everyone else as well, because I think they have much more to say. So again, just hurting people's minds and disrupting the space.
Absolutely. I think you're making a very, very big difference. But Babar, we've run out of time. So, thank you very much. But one thing I do want to mention, I'm not sure if you've thought about it. In Hindi and in Urdu, the word for time or yesterday and tomorrow is the same, which is kal. Right? And that is probably one of the reasons why there is this concept of timelessness in Pakistan and India, North India, I would say. But thank you again. It's been such a fascinating conversation talking to you. You've taken me down this absolutely incredible journey of advertising, journalism, and investigation. Thank you again, and good luck.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.